to listen to my favorite voice of any NFL team. And, of course, it's my favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers, Mr. Greg Papa. Good morning, sir.
Well, we're on Monday Night Football this week. You got Joe Buck. You got Troy Aikman. Do you guys like the Manning cast, Peyton and Eli? That's available to you. So
yeah, but
we got a lot of competition on Monday.
There's no competition. Okay, they're
All
great.
Right.
They're fine. They're good. I respect them. But come on, touchdown San Francisco.
Yeah.
And by the way, I know you're a lot more of a respectful individual than I. You're also a lot more mature than I. But I just want to apologize for what you had to endure last week in that game, and the fact that you were able to stay awake. I don't know if you were mainlining coffee or what, but you're just a consummate pro.
What do you mean, the Punch-A-Thon in the Rocky Mountains?
God.
11-10. There's been one previous 11-10 game in the history of the NFL. Pittsburgh at San Diego, I think in 2006. So 11-10 was weird. And what made it weird was that safety, which I didn't like the play call. Kyle admitted he didn't like it. It was a weird, you're on your own 1 yard line and you run a stretch boot, keep across the formation, which means you don't block the backside end. And you left yourself vulnerable, and Mike Purcell, the former Niner, busts through, and Jimmy loses himself and goes all Dan Orlovsky and steps over the end line, and then he throws the ball in the flat and winds up being intercepted by Bradley Chubb. So thank goodness he did step out. But the big thing on that, guys, is Trent Williams got hurt on that play.
Yeah.
So every week before the year starts, Jimmy Ward goes down. You get George Kittle goes down on Labor Day Monday. Now George is back, but then the first game of the year you lose Elijah Mitchell, the leading runner in a run-based offense, and then you lose Trey Lance in the second game, the home opener, and he gets carded off. They wheeled the card out. They drove the card out in Denver on Sunday night, but he didn't want it. Trent's too proud. So that's a tough loss to lose. I mean, Bosa's a great player. It's hard to pick who's the best player on the team, but he's one of two. And as far as left tackles, Trent Williams is one of one.
Yeah, so how do they – I mean, obviously it's football cliche, next man up, but that's such a valuable piece of that offensive line, Greg. How do they kind of cover for that this week and the coming weeks without Trent Williams?
Colton McKivitz will start, and then Jalen Moore's in the mix. They were both round 5 picks. Colton was in 2020 out of West Virginia, and that was the year Joe Staley retired, and you made the trade to get Trent. But Trent's older. He had some injuries, serious health issues. There was a major health scare his final year in Washington. So they drafted McKivitz, but I think it'll be McKivitz. And the thing with the Rams, obviously, is they don't have Von Miller anymore. He's in Buffalo, but they still got Aaron Donald. They got Leonard Floyd, who's a really good edge rusher. They're not getting a lot of pressure, which is interesting. So I'll be anxious to see if they line Donald up over McGlinchey. They put him over McKivitz. Denver overloaded McGlinchey's side with their 2 edge guys, Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory. So Donald is he's usually covered up. He's a 5 technique and a 3-4. He sometimes slides to end. They move him all over the place. So that'll be the first thing I'm looking for is where's 99? Does he go over 68 McKivitz or 69 McGlinchey? You got, big Max on each side of your offensive line there, your 2 tackles minus Trent. So, and then they've added Bobby Wagner. Everybody talked about Russell Wilson 17-4 against the 49ers. Well, they were in the same draft.
Yeah.
Isn't Bobby Wagner 17-4 against the 49ers?
Yep.
And he's such a good run player. The 49ers beat them 6 consecutive times going into the NFC Championship game last year, and most of it was just whooping them at the line of scrimmage and mainly in the run game. Bobby Wagner, to me, changes that dynamic because he's such a good run player.
Greg Papa joining us. Greg, I've always enjoyed that. I don't know if saying you've had a soft spot for Jimmy Garoppolo is accurate, but you we can tell you're very quick to jump on a lot of the unfair scrutiny at times that Jimmy has been put through. And I want to ask you, based on last week, there seems to be 2 prevailing thoughts. Number 1, that Jimmy Garoppolo sucked and played terrible. And number 2, that he was practicing on an alternate field in training camp and had just been thrown into the season and gotten the playbook. How much of his play do you blame on him, and how much do you blame on him leading into the season?
Well, just as far broad strokes, I appreciate Jimmy Garoppolo's ability.
Yeah.
Nothing more than that. I do like him as a person.
Sure.
And I think that's a big part of being a leader. I like Steph Curry a lot.
Sure.
That's a big reason why Steph Curry. I appreciate Jimmy's ability. It's easy to denigrate people. I see a guy who is decisive and accurate with the football. He does sometimes not see the field clearly, and that's the one major issue he has. I think he has an above-average throwing arm in some areas of the field. Is he Patrick Mahomes? Is he Josh Allen? Is he Justin Herbert when he's healthy? No. But you don't necessarily need one of those guys to win with this team. Now, if you got one of those guys,
right.
And that's why they tried to get Trey, they thought maybe he could be one in time. So I just appreciate Jimmy as a player. I just watched number 10. All that being said, Dave, I was really disappointed in his play in this game. The week of practice leading in, and I was there for all of the Wednesday and Thursday practices, the ball did not hit the ground in practice one time. Not one time. It reminded me of going back to when I was doing the Raiders and they had what I called the three wise men, Rich Gannon, Jim Brown, and Jerry Rice. The ball never hit the ground. If it hit the ground, it's like, what happened? It was like that last week going into the Denver game. Jimmy's arm was lively. He was just splattering guys. He was hitting them in stride. Bill Walsh would love it in the pocket, right hand. It was just boom, 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 boom. Wow, let's go. And then, we had that good drive. He hits Brandon Ayuk. The footwork was good on the backside slant. The one throw that really bothered me more than any, there were several. The one where he had Deebo Samuel one-on-one with a linebacker, Josie Jewell.
Yep.
And that was a clever play designed by Kyle to put him in the offensive backfield. So they code him as a running back. So who matches up with running backs and man coverage? Linebackers. And that's what they wanted. They ran out and up. And boy, if Jimmy lays that out there more, that's a touchdown. So it's not enough to get to 31 yards and lead into the boundary. He has to turn around and takes himself out of the play to make the catch. You got to hit him in stride. That was a poor throw. The last throw of the game, the one that got intercepted by Jonas Griffith, he had made two great throws right before that. The third down to Jawan Jennings. They finally converted the third down. And then the one to Ray right after that. And then he got greedy on first down. You're on the 48-yard line. Field goal wins the game. You got plenty of time. Be smart. Don't throw it into coverage. And he did. He tried to force one in there. So he did not have a great game. He missed some throws. There was one where he had Ayuk on a crossing route. He was backpedaling to his left a little bit. He bounced the ball. There were several throws he missed. There were several throws he made. I have a great respect for the process of OTAs and mini camps and training camp and all that. So, but part of me, I kind of got duped into, this is Jimmy Garoppolo. He's been around here for 4.5 years. He's been here. Can't he just go in and run it? And in practice, I saw him doing it at a really high level. I thought his arm looked as strong as I've ever seen it. Clearly better than the guy last year that had played through the bad thumb and the bad shoulder. And then in this game, it was unfortunate. I think the one that kind of started it, obviously the safety was just a terrible play, and the whole thing was awful, and Trent got hurt. But that fumbled snap he had really kind of killed momentum. And it wasn't his fault. The quarterback, every time he throws a pick, it's on him and it's QBR and all that. Sometimes the receivers run the wrong routes or they're not where they're supposed to be or they bobble the ball. That fumbled snap was not on Jimmy. And Jimmy has had a problem with fumbling when he gets pressure. He's got to put two hands on the ball. But Jake Brendel had the wrong snap count on that one. And Jimmy's the guy that's left, trying to scramble for the ball, and he couldn't get it. So I would say when completely healthy, and I think he's healthy, but he's still, ramping up. But there's not an existing injury. He's still stair-stepping up from the off-season shoulder surgery. That's about as bad as I've seen Jimmy play. I mean, every other time, like the Miami game a couple of years ago, he was so badly hurt in that game with a high ankle sprain. He was playing on one leg. Almost every time he's had a poor performance, there's been some injury. And this one, it's hard to really understand it because he's coming back from injury. But I thought he looked good in practice. So overall, this is like a C-, maybe even a D+ Jimmy Garoppolo game.
Greg, on the flip side, defensively, they've looked really good last week without Al-Shaair, without Armstead. You mentioned Jimmy Ward earlier. Where do they rate through 3 games, I guess, defensively as one of the better Niner defenses? They
are. There's no question. But where do they rate? They're 1 and 2. You got to close games out. I hate to be critical, but it's football. So if the other team, if your team scores 10 points, the other team can only get to 9. they got to 11. Now, I know there was a safety involved. I don't mean to be harsh, but they're strong in every level of defense. The corners, the safety play with Talanoa, the way he's playing, losing his knees will hurt, but they'll be all right. Demetrius will slip in, and the Rams play so much 3-wide receiver. For this game, you're going to be all right. The corners are good. Obviously, Bosa and the D-line, they're great. But you got Chicago, too many defensive penalties, couple of busts in the secondary. Chicago gets to 19. In this game, and I think a lot of it is the offense's inability to convert on third down. You're 0 for 9 on third down, and after that first touchdown drive, 49ers hardly ever had the ball. So when you go into Denver and deal with that altitude, you can't have your defense playing 70-plus snaps, and they wore down. So I understand it, but the bottom line is they let Russell Wilson sneak out, twice on scrambles. One time he hit him down the sideline, left side on the third down. The other one he deked Dre Greenlaw and picked up a first down on third down, and then he hit Cortland Sutton on the back shoulder against Charvarius Ward. So if you want to be a great defense, you can't allow that to happen. I'm being hard. They're obviously playing really well, but the bottom line, and they want to have more takeaways. They had takeaways in the first couple of games. They didn't get any in Denver. They had a chance. So, I mean, it's football. Their special teams was great. Mitch Wisnowski was voted the special teams player of the month. He had a great game. Samuel Womack down on that ball on the 1 yard line. Wow, that was incredible. Hey, jumping over the end line like that and not touching the goal line was a sensational play. But the bottom line, guys, is they're 1-2 on the season.
Yeah.
Greg, we appreciate your time. Have a wonderful call. Enjoy the long week. And next week, maybe we don't have time. We got to go. But Curry, Wiseman, and Poole, 3 of 25 this morning. Are the Warriors done before the season starts? Well,
I was up early this morning watching the game as a fan. I know Wiseman played well. His 9 wasn't good. I thought he played well today.
Oh, he did. It's just rough.
Tell my friend we say hi, Dave.
Yes, we will. We'll take good care of him. You take care, my man.
He's a good man. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Next week.
Thank you. Take care. That is Greg Papa, and we are